So we've all been there. The universe sends us an idea, so we rush back to our computers to try to capture that idea. We're riding this wave, this locomotive that's going full steam ahead. And then our locomotive derails. Now we're all familiar with writer's block and always getting stuck in an 8-bar loop. But what you may not know is that the block didn't occur at the moment you felt the block. It occurred from the start. That's right, you're setting yourself up for complete failure because you are crafting without a purpose. If I'm gonna build this beautiful home, it's gonna have these giant windows that let in all this natural light to make it look just vibrant and big and huge. And I'm gonna have these tall, 20-foot ceilings to make it feel open and vast and big and yada yada, paint colors here, paint colors there, whatever. But what about my foundation? What if I'm building this beautiful home, but the foundation is on wetland? And in a couple years, it's all just gonna crumble. What if I didn't even properly measure the foundation? And I just start slapping up these walls as I go? We have to think of the creative process in the same way, like we're constructing a home. When we get an idea, that is the universe giving us a chance to give birth to something that hasn't been created before. And that is such a magical thing that we can't just treat it willy-nilly. So, let's talk about a couple ways that you can avoid the inevitable crash of a creative block. But we gotta take a sip of coffee first. So the first way is to create with purpose. I find that the way to accomplish anything in your life, yes, anything, is to do it with purpose. As I mentioned, we want to measure before we build. When the universe sends us an idea, we need to capture it as soon as possible. Thankfully, we all have these handy dandy, pretty good field recorders in our pockets with us everywhere we go. Capture that idea, but do not build on it yet. Because as Hemingway has once said, the first draft of anything is shit. Now, it doesn't mean that the first draft of something can't actually be good. I think there's plenty of examples where the first take is the best take. It means that when you get married to ideas in your first draft, those ideas become the way and can get in the way. We end up stop listening to what the song actually needs. Something that I do almost every single time I get an idea is to come up with some kind of descriptive factor that feels like what I just recorded. So let's say I record this very delicate and soft guitar melody. To me, I may associate it with something like a sunrise. My direction is then decided for me. I'm following a sunrise. What does a sunrise do? Well, it starts off soft, it's usually dark. Then we see the sun slowly peek out on the horizon. Then it slowly rises. As it rises, the sky is being bursted with colors. And then at its final point, the sun is in the sky, shining and showing us all of its might. So when I'm building on the song, I'm gonna start off softly, barely giving anything. And it is going to slowly build. We're gonna splash some color into it. And at one point, it is gonna give us everything it's got. But where do we go from here? I hit a writer's block. Everything was going so well, and now I don't know where to go. Well, wait a minute. What does the sun do? The sun just doesn't get to its rise and it lasts forever in the sky. No, it sets. So that's what I should do in my song. Set the sun. So the song has been shining bright, it's beautiful, but then the colors start changing. The colors start fading, it gets a little darker, and the sun eventually goes down. Isn't that interesting? To sound very woo-woo, us making music is nature itself. And everything in nature has a process. And there are so many elements from nature that we can take from. The flow of a wave, it's inconsistent, but you know the tide is gonna come in and go out. The flight of a bird, it can be smooth and then suddenly something scares it and it's erratic. A car burning fuel as it's nearing its destination on an empty tank. Your creative block is an act of nature. Let's take another sip of coffee and talk about the next way, which is to create limitations. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, music has no limitations, I'm free as a bird when I create. Well, I hate to break it to you, but that same freedom that you have can also get you very lost. I did a video a while back about how plugins are stopping you from creating. The main idea behind that is that we get decision fatigue when we are presented with too many options. Every day, our brain only has a certain amount of energy to make on choices. And the more choices we have to make through the creative process, the more tired we'll be when ideas are really starting to cook. And that's not my opinion, That's just science. It's not just plugins. Our DAWs have so many options and capabilities that take us away from the main point of what we were doing. If I'm recording a guitar part and I'm trying to come up with lyrics, and I'm also trying to come up with the drum part, and I'm thinking about how this synth will sound and how to tune this hi-hat or whatever it may be, how am I focusing on anything when I'm trying to focus on everything? Here's how we should work. Here is a pyramid. Press subscribe if you like it. But this pyramid serves as a hierarchy of our order of importance. It allows us to set proper limitations through the creative process so we don't get distracted. At the top of the pyramid, you should always start with the most important thing. If you're a singer-songwriter, that most important thing is probably going to be lyrics. So worry about the lyrics. Don't worry about how long the song is going to be, about the guitar solo, the drums, nothing. Worry about the lyrics. If you're making a beat, the melody is probably going to be the most important thing, so focus on that. Once you've conquered this, you can move on to the next level. The next level is where we can start building up the track. This is where we can add a very basic drum beat or bass, keys, whatever it may be. But remember, we're only building. We are not tweaking. I repeat, don't tweak. That is not what this phase is for. If you start tweaking during this phase, which as you can see by the pyramid is the largest phase, you're going to take that momentum away. Because let's face it, we've all sat there tweaking a snare for hours on end. So after we got the structure, the drywall's been put up, then we can start adding the paint. The paint is going to be those little tweaks, that ear candy, little synths here and there, little background vocals, things that add excitement to the song. Those things are considered important, but during the building phase, they're really not important because the building phase, you're focused on building. Again, talking about constructing a home, I'm not going to start painting walls when my walls aren't even put up yet. Something else to consider when keeping limitations in mind is to build a template with only 4 tracks on it. Decide what those 4 tracks should be, but let's say if I'm a singer-songwriter, those 4 tracks should be vocals, guitar or a piano, bass, and drums. That's it. You're not allowed to add anything else. Write and record the entire track as if you're recording to a 4-track recorder. Because if you can make a song sounding great with only 4 tracks, well, the problem has solved itself. And the final way of breaking a creative block that I would recommend is simply to do nothing. Not a single thing. In fact, I would even recommend you walking away. Walking away from a project and understanding when to stop is a powerful thing. I think a lot of us feel compelled that we always have to keep going and grind through and push through and whatever. But stillness and taking a second, giving your brain the proper rest it deserves, is often left ignored. Again, let's go back to that building analogy. Do you think that a home builder is going to be there all day? No, they go home at some point, they rest, they take lunch, they take a break. Find the things that you enjoy doing, like being outside. And don't forget to take the time and do those things. When you take that break, don't even think about the project. Think about being in the moment and purposefully taking that break. The problem will eventually work itself out. And if it doesn't, it wasn't meant to be. It's a very hard thing to conceptualize and to hear, but sometimes things just aren't meant to happen.